Welcome to A Guide to Every Deck in Legacy. Today we're looking at Creative Cascade. Oh boy, this is some spice here. Creative Cascade is a deck built around abusing Creative Technique and its synergy with 6 mana plus Cascade spells. Creative Technique is a 5 mana sorcery that says, shuffle your library, then reveal cards from the top of it until you reveal a non-land card. Exile it and put the rest on the bottom. You may cast it without paying its mana cost. It also has Demonstrate, which means you can copy it if you also give your opponent a copy. So, Creative Technique means you'll always cast a random spell off the top for free. Obviously, the best card to hit is Emrakul, but even if you don't hit it, all the other non-land cards in your deck are spells with Cascade that cost more than Technique does. So, once you get to 5 or 6 mana, you'll cast either Creative Technique or a Cascade spell that cascades into it. Since the only non-land card in the deck that costs less than 6 is Creative Technique, you'll then go find another Cascade card. This will repeat until you've exhausted all the Creative Techniques from your deck, after which you'll have a metric ton of power on the board. So, if you can't cast anything that costs less than 5, how are you getting to the mana you need quickly enough? The deck plays numerous soul lands that produce 2 mana: Ancient Tomb, City of Traders, Dwarven Ruins, and the depletion counter lands from Mercadian Masks. As long as you don't get wastelanded, you should get to 5 or 6 mana by turn 3. So with all that said, let's look at the Cascade spells you'll be playing. Aurora Phoenix is a 5/3 flyer. Sweet Gum Recluse is an 0/3 with reach and flash that distributes 3/1 counters when it enters. Sakashima's Protege is a clone for permanents that enter the same turn and also has flash. Boarding Party is a 6/3 with haste. Let the Galaxy Burn is basically Pyroclasm. And at 8 mana, we have Maelstrom Wanderer for more Cascade shenanigans and being an onboard anger. And of course, Emrakul for when you win the Creative Technique lottery. In most circumstances, you'll spin Creative Techniques into a ton of creatures, and if any of them are Emrakul, Maelstrom Wanderer, or multiple boarding parties, you can win or near win immediately. So where does this deck falter? Well, first, it can't do anything really before turn 3, making it extremely susceptible to combo decks and potentially stacks pieces. It's very reliant on its lands producing 2 mana, which means it can be hindered by anything that stops lands like Wasteland, Blood Moon, Ruination, and even Back to Basics since many of its lands enter tapped. And none of its threats actually disrupt the opponent except for a handful of Besejus and Otawaras, without which the main deck wouldn't even be able to beat Ensnaring Bridge. The sideboard, which you can see is filled with lower mana cards that stop the constant spinning from Creative Technique, are a concession to the fact that you need to interact with the opponent in some matchups. Tips and tricks. If you give your opponent a copy of Creative Technique, their copy resolves first. Giving your opponent a copy of Creative Technique is very risky against certain decks like Reanimator or Show and Tell, but against most decks it's fine since who cares if they get a free Brainstorm or something, and it can even be worth the risk. However, you can almost never risk giving a copy to decks that obliterate your Cascade plan with cards like 3 Fairy or Trinisphere. The spells you cast for free via Technique and Cascade ignore timing restrictions, meaning you can go off at instant speed with Sweet Gum Recluse or Sakashima's Protege. I hope you've enjoyed this look at Creative Cascade. Thank you to my supporters, and if you enjoy these videos, consider supporting the channel, and take care.